How much of your Spotify Wrapped is going to be swayed by kid songs?
Dude, that's a thing. Um,
It's tough.
I I almost yeah, I'm curious how you do it because yeah, it's one thing that affects your Wrapped, but your the Discover playlist. Is that still a thing? Do people still use that?
I don't really use that. No. Some people might. I don't.
I used to use that all the time. And honestly, I don't really listen to that much music anymore, but
Yeah.
but it completely ruined my Discovery Weekly playlist because it
Yeah.
was, I mean, I've been on Spotify since 2011
Okay.
and like they are dialed into what I like.
Yeah.
And that playlist every week was just like, oh, this is great. Oh, this is great. And now it's like
Interesting.
all the
And
wheels on the bus go round and round. I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
not right
Wheels on the
now.
Bus, something about that song, the composition, it is just, it has a stranglehold on these kids. It really does. We got the books. We got Wheels on the Bus
There's a
Christmas
book.
themed books. We got the Halloween themed books. It's it's a whole thing.
I I didn't know it was I didn't know it went that far.
Well, when you do your Spotify Wrapped, you'll notice there's a new feature this year called your listening age.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
it's not as smart as you think it sounds. It
Okay.
sounds like I think it's just looks at the songs and what year they're from, and if you listen to only songs from 2025, your age would be 1 or 0.
Okay.
So it's not totally accurate, or it's not like smart in that way. But mine was 81,
81.
and the reason is because I listened to a ton of jazz from the 60s.
Okay.
In addition to Bon Iver, Kings of Leon is another one. Olivia Dean, shout out to Olivia Dean, new record this year. Awesome album. Uh, but it's really skewed. So the Spotify rap, this season is fun though because people are like, "Oh, well, it's mine's skewed because yeah," or like the have you seen the memes where the guy's like, "I am with child,"
I haven't, but I get it. I get it.
or people get like the your number one song was White Noise,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
think
that's my
mine
favorite track.
I'm not gonna look at it now because I would be totally distracted.
Yeah,
But I the last album that I've like pinned or saved or whatever.
yeah,
Here's the thing. I apologize. Like I don't use Spotify hardly at all compared to what I used to do.
yeah.
But the last album that I pinned was Hush Little Baby Piano Lullaby Hits. And that's the one that like totally crushed my Discover Weekly playlist.
That's great. I love
Yeah.
that. Let's talk about something specific today.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about brand.
Okay.
Let's talk about brand.
I got a lot of thoughts.
Okay. Why don't you
The,
start? What what is brand? I think that's we could probably talk for a long time just about that. But I think specifically like yeah, what is brand? What are the misconceptions about brand? And then how do you what is where does the logo
mm,
fit in that?
yeah. So I have maybe somewhat of a different concept of a brand.
Yeah,
I think you and I maybe talked about this when we were working together. So it's been a few years. And
sure we
I
have.
probably haven't talked about it too much since then. So this is a little,
There we
I might have
go.
to dig around a little bit.
Yeah.
But so my understanding of a brand is a brand is the mental association you have of a company, and everything about that company is the brand,
Yep.
their pricing model,
Hmm.
their their marketing language, the CEO, how he represents himself, um,
Yeah.
the way they answer the phones, the way
Yeah.
they're if they have a retail store, the way it smells when you walk in, the way they greet you.
Yeah.
Um, all of that creates some sort of a, it's not an image, but some sort of like a understanding in your head.
Yeah.
And for everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. Like your perception of Apple versus mine versus, an Android user, they're all going to be different. But like
Mm,
that's the brand.
yeah.
And then the logo is the flag. It's the
Mm,
that's the representation. That's the thing that like puts that all into a visual chunk of, reproducible art.
yeah.
That's a brand to me.
I like that. Quick side note, totally unrelated. I just noticed your I just noticed your office here is, it's there's a lot going on back there. There's a lot going on back there. You got some
I was
storage.
I was hoping I had a little better bokeh and it'll all be out of focus.
I didn't even notice it until now because you got
Well,
great lighting. You got great
it's
lighting on your face and but there's some stuff happening back there. You
well,
maybe you got robbed and like
can
they
I
that's how they left that's how they left it.
can I okay, look at your background. Number one. I think I called you out last week, but you probably edited that part out. Uh
There's no editing here. I don't have time. I don't have time to edit
okay,
this thing.
good.
So
Good. Well, I'll just tell you real quick. So these bookcases back here, there's a few more that you probably can't see.
yeah.
So we just snagged those from my wife's parents' house.
Got it.
They're straight up 1990s, like
Yeah. I think my parents have the same
decent
thing.
quality,
Yeah.
decent quality.
Yeah.
But so what I'm gonna do,
Probably heavy as hell.
they are so heavy, so
Yeah.
heavy. But I'm gonna turn them into some built-ins in this office. So
Ah,
they're I think they're gonna look pretty sweet when it's all done.
I like.
And just real quick throwback to the YouTube. A lot of what I watch on YouTube is like DIY, like
Ah,
woodworkers, home
nice.
builders, custom home builders, all that kind of stuff. Part of it's that. So
Cool.
the whole other side of my life that I've kind of taken up.
Nice. I like that.
So apologies for the backdrop.
It's no problem. There's no judgment here. I'm not one to
Kind of judgy.
judge here. It's
I'm a little judgy.
this is where designers we judge. It's
Yep. Yep.
it's hard to get away from that. Um, but yeah, I like that definition of brand. It's I feel similar about brand. It's all the things. It's your product too. This is why brand is confusing because like your product is your brand,
Yep.
and but often those are separate teams. If you go work at Meta, you're probably working on the brand or the product
Yep.
or marketing or product. Uh, but your product is your brand. There's like the stuff that makes sense, like your marketing, your content, your logo, all that stuff. I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, the brand is the it's how how does the company send an email?
Yep.
How do they do headlines? Do they have a period at the end of headlines
Mm.
or not? Is it all capital headlines? All that stuff is your brand. Um, and so I think there's also some distinction between like how people feel about the brand. Because you mentioned, you got me thinking when you're talking about an Android user might feel differently about Apple than I would about Apple. Uh, but is that the brand or is that, I think the Apple brand is the same. It's the same thing. It's kind of what they put out. We're interpreting the brand and we have different feelings about it. But I've heard a distinction before too, like kind of reputation and
Mm.
brand. That I think there's an interesting distinction there. Um, but I think we both agree that your brand is this broad thing. It's like every interface that a company has with their customer. Uh,
Mm. I'd go further than that.
mm,
Employees. I would say,
totally. Yeah,
let me throw a question out.
100%. Yeah.
Is there anything that a company does in any capacity that's not the brand?
That's a great question. That's a great question. have to think on that. I'll be thinking about that for the next week, probably. That's a great
I'm,
question. It,
you
it,
know, go ahead.
I, I, I think you bring up a good point about the culture and internal. I, I really discovered this working at Astronomer. When I was working at Astronomer years ago, everybody knows Astronomer now from the Coldplay incident. This was long before that happened. Totally different company, different leadership. Uh, but anyway, I was building the brain. I was in-house with Astronomer with this burgeoning tech startup in Cincinnati. And I was the brain guy. I was the design guy. I was a one-man design team and doing everything. And in that process, I came to really believe or just see how tied the brand is to the culture and into HR. Like for a moment, I was like, I want to get into HR. I want to be an HR guy because this is brand. Like what is like how this is such a HR, folks are fostering this brand because and part of that thing is like the brand is going to start from inside of the company. What's Apple's brand? Quality, innovation, tech, whatever, user experience, all of that. Like we don't as customers. It's not that we made that up. That's coming forth from the brand. And maybe the Steve Jobs era is different than the Tim Cook era in some ways or whatever. But how like the brand. So my final point here, then I'm going to hear what you have to say is I've sometimes think about the brand as like if you whittle it down, whittle it down, whittle it down, it's just like what the company values.
Mm.
It's just tied to what the company values. What does the company value? What do they care about?
What's the
That's your brand.
what's the quote? Something about a system. The something about like a system is what it does. The point of a system is what it does, or something like that. You know what I'm
I
talking
don't
about?
know. I don't know that.
But the one thing I kept thinking about with Apple is like secrecy.
Mm,
I think that's part, not maybe
part of the
not
brand.
everyone appreciates that because people
Yeah.
aren't, checking out Mac rumors every, week or whatever.
Yep.
But like historically, they've been a pretty secretive company. They release product. I know some of this has changed more recently, but like they
Yeah.
release a product when it's ready.
Yep.
But that's culture.
Yeah.
That's like
Totally.
the logo doesn't say that. The marketing messaging maybe indirectly says that or doesn't. I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Yeah.
um yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the only pushback I would do on the I, maybe it's just semantics, but like is the brand, and I think that's an interesting question here. Does a brand is it a consistent thing because it's what the company does, or is the interpretation of the customer, the employee, the CE, like does are those all unique manifestations of the brand? I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if I have an opinion on that, but
Say that again. So yeah.
so
Say that again.
you were talking about like, well, I brought up the Android user
Yep.
versus the iPhone user. They certainly have different perceptions of Apple. One might
Yeah.
be overpriced, one
Hmm.
might be high quality.
Yeah.
It just works versus highly configurable to my everlasting wish.
Yeah.
Now, are those like is how does that affect like what is that in the brand conversation? Are
Mm.
those is one accurate and one's inaccurate? Are they just not part of the brand?
Mm.
I would argue that the brand is kind of like in the eye of the beholder, I guess. I don't know. I'm just throwing out these kind of
Well,
cliches. But
maybe both of those things are true. And I think they are true. Um, that Apple, so to take like the Apple versus Android example, which I guess this is still true. Maybe it's not as true as it used to be, but like Apple's very or traditionally been very it's closed. It's like you can't really configure it. You just recently have been able to move icons
Mm,
around the screen and put them wherever you want. And you always hear the Android guys like, "Oh, I've been doing that
doing
since
that for
2018," you know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so yeah, so in that way, it's like those things, both of those things can be true. So it's like oh, it's not very or an Apple person might say, well, it's very intentional, has intentional design. And the Android person would be like, no, it's just like closed and annoying, and I want to configure it.
yeah,
But it's still the same thing in that it's still a decision that Apple made to be that way.
yeah,
They know that they're not going to hear the Android response and be like, "Oh yeah, we never thought about that. We never thought about configuring, or customization or whatever."
yeah,
So, yeah, it's like but I think this also brings up a good point about I think the best brands are really opinionated. And when brands are really opinionated, then people have a lot of feelings
mm,
about it. There's a lot of response to that. And, you know, people might feel different ways about the brand, but um, so I don't know that like the different interpretations, like I mean, I guess brand is kind of in the eye of the beholder in a way. But I do think that companies have a lot of control and a lot of opinions about how they are putting their brand out in the world. That's what they control. They don't control how people react to it.
yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Brands. It's just it's an interesting kind of abstraction of. I mean, everything the company does
Yeah.
is going to affect everyone a little bit different.
Yeah. Totally.
And I think, yeah, do those differences, is it considered the brand or not? I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's another interesting distinction here, or something that I've struggled with my whole career, or at least most of it, is what is if I'm working on branding, if I say, oh, I'm doing a branding project, often what I'm talking about is just the visual brand. So I've
Hmm.
started to try to distinguish between visual brand and brand. And the visual brand being your logo, icons, color palette, fonts, even UI elements, style, rounded corners, all that stuff is your visual brand. Just as a way to separate that from brand. But the downfall that I get into a lot is I still will often just say I'm working on branding, and when I say that, most people aren't thinking like, oh, you're designing, I don't know, whatever, like every single touch point. Like, no, they think I'm making a logo.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I think you could say the same thing about design.
Mm. Yeah,
Like, I'm,
that's true.
I'm, I'm designing,
That is true.
it's like everything is design. Anything that's done on purpose is designed.
That's true. That's a great
Engineering is
point.
design.
Yep.
Um, yeah, when people say like, "Oh, I'm not a designer, so I'm not," it's like you're a designer to some
Yeah.
degree, you know. Just and people think, oh, if you're designing, you're working on colors and rounded
Hmm.
corners and typography, and
Yeah.
no, it's like everything's design.
Yeah. It's a great point. It's like but the challenge still remains for me though. Like we get that. We can, a couple designers can riff on this stuff all day long.
Hmm.
But what's helpful is to be able to explain to my parents, my parents' friends at a dinner party or something, what do you do? So it I always struggle with that. Do you like the visual branding distinction? I've also heard visual ID is like a little bit of an older term. But like so
Yeah.
like there we still have to define these things because it's helpful.
Um, I'm gonna tell a quick story.
Yeah.
Uh, it's super stupid, but it
We got 5 minutes left.
yeah, I'll do it quick. So, I took a bunch of trash to our local dump, and it was late in the evening, and my wife and I didn't have anything for dinner at home, so I said, "Hey, I'll stop at Chipotle. There's one right up the road, right? I'll stop there on the way home." So I'm driving up the street. It's dark. Um, Side story, I got a new truck recently, and the guy who owned it before me has tinted the front windshield. So the front windshield's
Okay.
like really, really dark. And like
Got
with
it.
my old eyes, I have a hard time seeing out the front. So I might rip it off, but I kind of like it anyway. So like I'm looking up the street. I'm
Is that
like, I
legal,
haven't
by the
been.
way?
He told me it was, so I'm going with
Okay.
that. He said it's the darkest you can do and still be
Well,
legal. I
if
said,
he
okay.
said so, then I'm sure it
Yeah,
is.
that's I'll just tell the cop that when he pulls me over. Um, so I'm driving up the street and I'm like looking for the Chipotle. I know it's up there somewhere and it's like kind of dark. And I remember just having this quick little moment where it's like, okay, that's Chipotle. Like I can barely see it, but like I recognize it. And in that moment, I was like, man, does Chipotle's logo kind of suck? Like, cause like I should be able to see that pretty quick and just know. Like everyone should know Chipotle,
That
right?
is the most designer. That's the most designery thing I've heard in months.
But I just, yeah, just inside my head, I had this little like, is that, you know,
Yeah.
it should be more recognizable at a distance, right?
Mm,
Um, I don't know where to go with that other than mm, when we talk about branding or visual branding, um, it's I think the things that are important, and I'm going to go back to this other thing. I'll try to be quick, so I want you to have the last word, maybe. Um, the order of cognition about anything, I guess, like shape, color, content.
mm,
Good logo, you recognize the shape, very quickly.
yeah.
Um, Color and content, as in, text or whatever, like that's all
Yeah.
secondary, tertiary. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, I mean, a good
mm.
logo should be recognizable at a distance in the dark with dark tinted windows. Like, I don't know, but those are the things that are, branding to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Um, More so than the corner radius of, you know, now
Mm,
Apple has kind of made their corner radius as part of the brand because it's everywhere,
true.
you know.
Yeah.
But if it's I don't know. We got 2.5 minutes left. You can have the last word.
Well, couple thought. I mean, there's a lot to say, but I'll try to talk about a couple things. The Chipotle example is interesting, because like I don't think that I don't think it was I don't think Chipotle is like we're really opinionated about how we don't want people to be able to see our brand from far away. You know, they don't
Right.
want that, but it's a or see our logo, I should say. Um, but that's like there are unintended consequences of brand. That's why branding is hard because, everybody's got different feelings and experiences and all that. Um, so I think that's one thing about it, or one thing I wanted to say there. Is Chipotle's logo good? I don't know. I just think of it as like a typeface right now. But anyway, my
Well, they've
final
got
re
the little like Chipotle
they do. That's true.
pepper.
An old designer friend of mine, Bethany Heck, uh, once told me that a good logo should roll down a hill.
Mm.
And I thought that I'll never forget that. And I think she had heard it from someone, but I'll never forget it. And I always think about that. Um, but the last thing I'll say, we got 1 minute left, is I think as a designer, I do a lot of visual branding. I like that work, logos, colors, fonts, all that stuff. I just wrapped up one that was really fun. Um, but the ultimate dream for me is to like do a full brand for a company and like design every single touch point.
Mm.
Maybe a restaurant, for example.
Mm.
Design the menus, the tables, the lighting, the front door, the interior design, everything about it, the website, the mobile app, how do customers pay, all of that stuff. That's like
The menu,
that's yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
the pricing.
Absolutely 100%. Everything. Every single thing. So,
We need real quick. We need design entrepreneurs.
love it. That's what I'm trying to do, man.